This is Inside MCLA, helping inquiring minds better understand the culture at Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts.
Hi, I'm Joshua Curtiss, and I believe that one of the best ways to strengthen any community is through engaging in dialogue. I pitched the idea for this podcast because I wanted to learn more about the numerous people who helped shape the college. Today, I have the honor of speaking with the man at the head of all the operations at MCLA, President Birge. Thank you for being on the show.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so the first question I have was, what is your background before working at MCLA?
Well, I've worked in higher education for 35 years, and I started out as a relatively low-level administrator. I was a hall director, and then moved to a dean of students position, and then kind of worked my way up from there. Right before I was here, I was at Franklin Pierce University in New Hampshire as their president.
Okay. How was it working there? Like, what's the biggest difference?
Well, Franklin Pierce is a private institution, so our form of revenue is different. We don't have a state they don't have a state appropriation. The planning is a little different because as an independent institution, you're not part of a system the way MCLA is. And so I work more often with the other 8 state university presidents. And there are real benefits to that. You get to have a sense of what's working well on other campuses or what isn't working well, what we can replicate, what we contribute to other institutions doing good work. So it's much more collegial being in the public setting. Okay.
How has MCLA changed from when you started working here up until now?
Well, I think I'm just starting my 5th year, and I think these last 5 years have changed higher education in general dramatically.
Yeah.
Certainly today, as we're sitting here, we're in the midst of a coronavirus epidemic, and that's changed or is changing how we're doing everything from encouraging faculty to consider alternative modalities for delivering course content, to contingency planning for administrative and staff units, to thinking about academic calendars. So that's changed dramatically just in the last 2 weeks. But in the last 5 years, I think that we've seen more and more students coming to campuses who are more competitive. They're a higher academic profile. They're more focused on academic success. I think institutions are responding to that with building more student support services. So we've expanded SESI, for example, here. Because of the good work of a number of faculty, we have a math drop-in center, we have the writing studio. So all of those things that help students achieve their academic goals have emerged just in the last couple of years.
Okay. What does teamwork mean to you?
I think teamwork is a matter of finding people to come together who have a common purpose among them, who have like interests, who are good at problem solving. This is a fairly complex organization. It's a $50 million operation. We employ more than 400 people. We have, over the course of a calendar year, about 2,000 students who study here at one time or another. And so it's a complex place, and it takes a team to make things work. I think some people think the president makes all the decisions. It's often the case that the president has decisions attributed to his, her, or their role, but more often than not, decisions are made by a group of people.
Okay. If you're willing to share, what are some of the hardest decisions you've had to make with the team?
Here, well, I think probably this week has been the hardest. We had to make a decision to cancel classes for the week after spring break. That's hard because it's disruptive. It halts academic momentum of students. It changes the amount of content that faculty are planning to teach students. That's a very difficult decision to make. We've suspended athletic competitions, practices, and travel at least until March 30th. And that's hard because students enjoy that athletic competition.
Yeah.
And I know that people are discouraged by that, but we think sometimes often you make decisions that are unpopular, but they're necessary to make. frequently I talk about leadership, and leadership in my perspective is about making hard decisions.
Okay.
That's what leaders have to do. They're often unpopular, but they're necessary.
Mm-hmm. Where would you like to see MCLA in the future?
Well, I think we're on a good trajectory, a really good trajectory. We have high quality faculty here. The kind of teaching and learning that occurs here, in my career, I think it's the best I've seen. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, he's just saying that because he's the president, but it really is true. I think the way that our faculty teach engages students more deeply than I've ever seen before. Our emphasis on high impact practices, so students who are doing internships, undergraduate research here is phenomenal. The amount of community service students do, the study away programs, I think those are all really important learning activities for students that deepen and broaden their knowledge base. That all happens because of faculty, and so I think the quality of the education that students receive at MCLA is among the best in the country, and I think that's reflected in our rankings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just so grateful to be able to be here with people that do really awesome work.
What are we ranked currently, if you can tell?
Yeah, right now we're ranked 7th among public liberal arts institutions, and so that category includes all the service academies, so West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy, and they're usually sitting in the top 3 spots.
Yeah.
We've been in that top 10 category, I think 7 out of the last 9 years. So I think we have a strong reputation, and I think we've earned it.
Okay. What is the most challenging thing about being the president of MCLA?
The most challenging thing? Well, I think it's always difficult to make decisions that won't benefit some people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think decision making, for me anyway, is thinking, how does it benefit, what's the greatest good for the greatest many?
Yeah.
And that doesn't always encompass everyone. And so I know sometimes that there are decisions that have to be made that aren't beneficial for some people, but it is beneficial for most. Those are hard. Weighing that is one of the hardest things. It's tremendously lonely, actually. Vice presidents have other vice presidents, deans have other deans, directors have other directors. There's only one president, and so sometimes it can be pretty lonely. Fortunately, since I've been here, I've worked with 2 board chairs, Susan Gold, and our current chair is Denise Marshall, both of whom have been wonderful to work with, and they're really the people that I can turn to sometimes to vent, to seek their input. They have a benefit of being outside the institution and looking into it. So that's really beneficial. But it's a position where there's nobody else has the role that I have,
mm-hmm.
and it can be lonely sometimes.
Okay. Can you share one story that makes you think, that when you look back on it, makes you think, this is why I love the work that I do?
Oh, there are a lot of those stories. Let's see. I think that, when I see students who have struggled academically succeed,
mm-hmm.
I like that. So we have a committee of faculty and staff who review appeals from students who've been suspended academically.
Yeah.
And so they make those decisions, and then I review them all. And so I get to read all of the students' appeals. And so when I read about a student who has been suspended and who has appealed the suspension and it's granted, and then see that student succeed, that's an awesome thing. That's great. And I think that's what we're really good at here. And I love that. I love seeing students achieving goals that they've set for themselves. And when they say they want to do something and they do it, there's nothing better than that, frankly. I think that when we set goals for ourselves, and we achieve them, that's great. We've had a pretty good enrollment year this year, and some of it was because the unfortunate closing of Southern Vermont College, but a lot of it was because our admissions staff worked really hard to recruit more students, and they nailed it. They got it, and so to see their satisfaction is really wonderful for me. Almost 2 years ago, I picked a new VP for institutional advancement, Bob Ziomek, who's a 1989 alum of the institution. And I knew there was more that could happen through institutional advancement, particularly in fundraising. And so he came in and he changed some of the work that people were doing. He refocused them where their gifts are better applied. And we've seen tremendous success in that with engaging more alumni in the life of the institution. We've seen more donations coming in, and most of those are for student scholarships. So, that's tremendously rewarding. So I love that part. But I think the most important thing for me is our mission of access.
Okay.
Thinking about what kind of education can we offer to students who wouldn't get this education anywhere else because either they couldn't afford it or it was too far away. That's really the fundamental purpose that we have, is providing access to a high-quality liberal arts public education for students. A lot of our students come from low-income backgrounds, and to see them get here, to get a high-quality education, and then to go on to lead lives that they wouldn't have lived otherwise, there's great satisfaction in that. And if there's a greater purpose in higher education, I don't know it.
Okay, so this is the last question. What is your favorite song and why?
One?
Yes, if you had to choose one.
Oh my gosh. To narrow it down is going to be hard. Let me think. So it's probably a James Taylor song. I love the song Mexico. I spent a lot of time volunteering in Mexico years ago. And I used to take students with me on spring break trips. And there was this little community of Nueva Rosita in the state of Coahuila that we used to go and visit all the time. And there was a family there that I stayed with for 6 or 7 years. And I always, whenever I hear James Taylor sing that song, it reminds me of my time in Rosita. I loved that time.
What's the name of the song again?
Mexico.
It's called Mexico.
It's called Mexico.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks,
for being
Josh.
on the show.
Thanks for letting me be here.
It was awesome.
Inside MCLA is hosted by theater major Joshua Curtiss. You can keep up with Inside MCLA on Podbean, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. To learn more about what's what at MCLA, visit our website, mcla.edu.